This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Jeff Gardner.
Welcome to another episode of the Good Neighbor Podcast. Today we have another good neighbor on, Robin MacDonald of rpmroamings. Robin, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to this conversation. I often start off the show by, letting the audience dive a little bit into the pre-show, because normally we talk a little bit. It's very interesting what you were saying, being a travel agent, which I'll let you explain that. But you were talking about if COVID taught us one thing, it was to do the thing you want to do now. Don't wait, because you never know what will happen. We weren't expecting a pandemic to happen. And businesses that wanted to get somewhere waited, and then the pandemic hit and they're no longer around, unfortunately. People lost their lives. I don't want to start off on a really morbid topic, but we try to talk about real stuff here on this podcast. We want to make it entertaining, but we want to make it valuable to people. And I don't know that there's a more important lesson out there for me. No matter if somebody considers me young or old, I think it's all relative. There's 20-year-olds in my life that think I'm ancient. And then there's 70-year-olds in my life, like my parents, who think I'm a baby at 38. But the message is still the same, that if you love something, if you want to do something, get out there and do it. I thought that was a very cool point that you made, but I don't want to spoil it. So let's talk about you, Robin. What do you do?
So I am a travel advisor.
Oh,
and
advisor. Okay.
Yeah, the name travel agent, travel advisor, we've morphed from travel agent to travel advisor because many times it's more than just the sale of, oh, I want an all-inclusive or I want this. My scenario for myself is that if you phone me up and you say to me, I want to go to an all-inclusive. So then I ask you a whole bunch of questions. Where do you want to go? Where won't you go? Which is really important. What do you want? Are you a sand and sea person? Are you a sand and pool person? Do you want all-inclusive that has adults only? Are you open for families? It's a multiple list of questions. Do you have food allergies? Where do you like to sit on the plane? All those type of things. Do you want a king size bed? Do you want two doubles? Do you want an ocean view? Do you want an ocean front? Which there is a difference. All those things. And then that's just all inclusives. If I work on something where you're going to go to Europe and you want to go to 3 different cities, I'm asking you, what cities do you want to go to and what do you want to see? Do you want tours? Everything that could possibly be asked. And then I do research, and I've seen literally myself spend 40 hours researching a trip for somebody to put the whole thing together. So I try to work it that from the minute you leave your front door, I can make sure that you're looked after until the minute you come back to your front door. So you get picked up from your house, transferred to the airport, onto the plane, transfer when you get to wherever location 1 is that you're going to or whatever. And then the same thing happens. You come home on a plane, you get off the plane, you're transferred back home. Try to make it as painless and as simple for anybody that's traveling. And I try to do that, existentially with every single client I work with. It doesn't matter whether it's just a car rental, which believe me, that actually happens. I've never had so many confusion parts as one car rental in Halifax. It was just nuts, absolutely insane. Probably spent close to 12 hours on a car rental in Halifax, trying to get that straightened around. Ran into problems. They had bad weather. They had bad weather when they left Canada. Or when they left Ontario. They had bad weather when they got to Halifax. Wait, I'll get you a car. Don't worry, we'll get it. And everything. It's just insane. But that's how I work it. And funny thing is, when you said your parents think you're still a baby and they're 70, you'll always be a baby. Always, because to your parents, that's just how it works. I'm going to be 70 next month. And I still look at my kids as little kids. That's just the way it is.
I think it's
But
just the way it is. I think you're right. It doesn't matter. No
it
matter
is.
how much I rebel that. I'm like, Mom, there's gray hair everywhere. There's wrinkles. I'm not a baby. She's not going to change.
Forever, you will be the baby. It's just the way it is. And it doesn't matter if you're one of 5 or only one in the family, you're always going to be your mom's baby.
Yeah.
It's
For the
always
most
the way
part, I
there.
think it's quite endearing, actually. It just annoys me a little bit when I'm introducing them to like maybe my next partner or maybe Lex love interest or something. And they start, bringing up the pictures of me when I was a child and all my
The
stupidity.
embarrassing moments.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I sympathize with you on that.
Yeah.
I tried so hard not to do that, but every so often, like, I have, I think I told you before when we were originally scheduled for this that I was going on a trip and I didn't know where I was going other than Montreal.
Oh, yes.
Uh,
With your daughter. Right. Talk to me about that real quick.
That was hilarious because my husband, I'm blithely going along thinking, oh, I'm going to Montreal. I'm going to meet my daughter and my grandchildren and go to Montreal, and then we're going to rent a car and drive to Vermont. And why this schedule was put together like this was beyond me. And then my youngest daughter calls and says, "Can we get a ride to the airport? Because my granddaughter has a soccer tournament in Montreal." And I'm thinking, you're off in La La Land, and you're thinking, no, okay, no connection here whatsoever. So everybody's borrowing suitcases and packing, and we load up the car. My husband drives us down to Toronto. We meet my oldest daughter, who flew in from the States, at this hotel. And oh, let's all go in and have a beverage. So we go into the hotel. Their luggage stays in the car. My luggage comes with me because I'm staying at that hotel with my daughter. And then we're all sitting at a big round table. And my oldest daughter says to me, "So, Mom, you know how we told you we were going to Montreal?" And I said, "Yeah." And she says, "Well, we're not." I said, "We're not?" She says, "No." And I think the worst part of that whole thing when she told me we were going to Montreal is she said to me, "Bring your flip-flops and your bathing suit." And I'm thinking to myself, Montreal in March. No, in April. Flip-flops and a bathing suit. I said to her, "Am I going to be the ultimate Canadian in shorts and a puffy jacket trying to stay warm?" She thought that was hilarious. At the table, she announces, we're all sitting there, "We're going to go to Martinique." And I'm like,
What is
we're
that? Where is that? Never heard of that.
Caribbean.
Okay.
It's owned by France, believe it or not. But um, so we're going to Martinique, all of us except my husband. So it's me and my two daughters and my grandchildren. They've rented a house down there. We're flying to Martinique, and it's like I was I was emotional about it, but I was like in shock because then they start explaining how they do it. And my youngest granddaughter, I had done the nanny cab, which is when I go and pick them up, I call it the nanny cab. I had picked her up and she said, "Oh, Nan, I'm doing a project for school and it's all about travel." And I'm like, "That's great, right?" And she says, "If you had a choice of places to go, what would be the top 5 places that you would go?" And this was, I don't know, 3 months ago, 4 months ago. And I said, "Oh, I'd love to go to Martinique. That's my top of my list and everything." So she had been sussing up the information for me.
Yeah.
And
This is like
she's the,
espionage.
oh, I tell you, and she's the quietest one of the entire group. Wicked sense of humor, one-liners, but she comes out with this. And all she did is she got this secret little smile on her face when my daughter says, "Oh, Keely did it." And like she sussed it out. And I was like this. Anyways, I had a great time, marvelous time. 4 teenagers in a pool that had flashing colored lights going absolutely insane. They all had nicknames for each other in day 3. And I never laughed so hard before in all my life as these kids.
And t-
Seriously,
and
it was
and tell
just
me,
awesome.
Robin, was this for your birthday? What was this
Yeah,
for?
my birthday's in May, but because of my eldest daughter's travel schedule, because she works for a large corporation in the US, they wanted to make sure that everybody could like that they could be there
Mhm.
together and
And is
everything.
that for
So yeah,
70?
70.
Congratulations. What a way to celebrate. If your
It
family sees
was.
this, which they better watch, that's very cool, family,
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
do
they
that
were great.
for mama. That's very cool. Let's talk
Yeah.
about what got you into this, Robin. So I think you gave us a really good description of what you do for consumers. You take care of them from the minute they step out of the door to the minute they get back, which I've worked with travel agents before and they were good. Like I had no complaints, but it wasn't that. we've had a couple of travel advisors on. I kind of like that word better. I think it explains more of what it is. I do like the way you explain it. Travel agent to me seems like we'll make the sale for you, make sure you get to the place you want to go. And advisor seems more like I have a financial advisor, and they are much more involved with me, making sure that they're a guide. I can call them up. I imagine your people can call you up saying we're having a problem. What can we do? We've had a few other travel advisors on the show, and they said similar things. But what got you to this? What's the story behind this? You said you started 2024.
I actually have been doing travel since 2017 and
Oh, wow.
changed to this new agency in 2020. December of 2024 was I was finished with the other agency and went to this new one. What actually got me into this, believe it or not, was I worked in automotive. And when I was in automotive, they travel all over the world, right? This was a supplier for Honda and Toyota. So many people in the company were traveling all over the place. So I set up a system for monitoring the travel and controlling it and everything like that with another travel company in Barrie. And I loved it. I absolutely loved the whole scenario of, checking flights and doing the whole thing. And then I have another business beside this. I do invitations. So I had a client referred to me for invitations. And while we were sitting there talking, she had brought her fiance in with her, and he was asking me all these questions about where I'd been and everything. And at the end of that conversation, he said, "Oh, you should hire her." Like this. And I just said, "Oh, I'd be really happy to do your invitations." And she laughed and she said, "No, he thinks I should hire you to work for me as a travel advisor." And I went, "Oh." So that she put that offer forward to me, and I took a couple of months to think about it. And it was sort of one of those things that I'm going to do this part-time. That was hilarious. There never was a part-time. Anyways, so I started doing it and I really enjoyed it. I love the idea of planning stuff for people. And the best part for me is when they come back and I ask them, I send an email and I go, "Just want to review where you were, what was great, what was good, and what was not so good." I don't say what was horrible, what was awful or anything, but what was not so good, because everybody's opinion can change and differ. So I do that, and then I found that it actually started to take over doing the invitation business, which COVID hit. And then all of a sudden it was nothing. So there was no travel, there was no invitations, no nothing. So spent that time in training for a lot of stuff to further my knowledge on what it was. And when it started up again, I was back at it. And I've never ever regretted doing this. Never. I've never sat back and thought, this was just crazy to do this. And quite honestly, last year I was asked by somebody, "Are you going to retire from this like soon?" And I went, "No. As long as my brain is working and my fingers are good for using a keyboard, I'll do this." And I actually plan to keep doing it until I'm at least 80, if not longer. Um, I can see the world from my desk. I live vicariously through when other people say, "Oh, I want to go to Abu Dhabi or something like that." So I'm looking, okay, what's in Abu Dhabi that we could do, you know? And I've made so many great contacts around the world with, people that do tours or do special dining thing in their own home and stuff like that, I've broadened my friendship market as well, which is hilarious because I have friends all over the world. But the one thing about this whole thing, I laugh when you said, people that can call you at any time. So that has happened, 2 a.m., 3:15 a.m., 4:20 a.m. People call me. I sleep with my cell phone beside me. People say, "Why don't you put it on do not disturb?" And I figure if people need to call me, it's because there's a problem and they need my help. And that's, just the way my husband just laughs. But
That's
I
commitment.
find,
That is
yeah,
commitment. Those two, a few people would do that. That's a hell
oh,
of a
they have.
service you provide. No, but I'm saying
Yeah.
few people would do what you do. Few people would pick
Oh,
up, only a few. That's a hell of a
yeah.
service you provide. I hope people really heard that.
Yeah. I also feel that, and I think you and I discussed this earlier, is that with COVID, uh, there's no guarantees for tomorrow anymore. There isn't. There is. So, why would you put off something for 10 years? Because, when your mortgage is paid, you're going to go on holiday. Well, okay. So, in the midst of all that, a vacation gives you a break mentally, physically, and all of those things allows you to do what you want to do because we custom craft it, to do what you want to do. And I think it does a backward aging thing. I think the stress of everyday life will make you age, but I think when you go on vacation, you become a younger person. And I like to think that when you are on vacation, wherever you are in the world, that you leave a good footprint to where you're going. Like if you go and volunteer in a village in, Africa or whatever, that you leave a good footprint there, that you experience the rest of the world, not just what is there commercially, but also what's available there for you to go and see. Take advantage of tours, do a little bit of hiking, do some biking,
Try to
go in
understand the
and check.
culture, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because I think a lot of people miss the point that those smaller cities and countries and villages, they depend on the tourism, not so much in a come to my village and eat my food type thing, but to expand their knowledge
Mm-hmm.
and also to help them economically. And that's so important. Like if you're going to spend your money, then do it in such a way that it's a joy for you, but you can also spread that joy.
Yeah, I love it. I really love it. I think I don't know, in another life, maybe I would have done the same thing because boy, do I ever love history and the exploration, different cultures,
Yeah.
different languages, different food. It really is like on one spinning rock, we have a solar system or universe of different planets almost different. We all, look relatively the same. We're all of the same species, but so vastly different from philosophy to religion to day to day to relationships. And then the animals. I went to Australia. I've been to a few cool places, but it was like Jurassic Park over there. Everything is deadly and way different. Even their dogs are different. The only thing that seemed the same was their cats seemed like they looked like ours, but everything else was alien to me. It's just amazing. That even though it seems like a long flight, 24 hours or whatever it was, it's still only a day. If you think about it, one day
Yeah.
and you're in a
Yeah.
completely different world.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to me. So maybe I got that bug from another life. But Robin, before we get into a couple of really important questions here, and I'm sure everybody wants to hear, certainly I'm curious about, let's have a lighthearted one. What are 5 things that really light you up? 4 or 5 things that really put a smile on your face, energize you, things that if you could do on repeat, you'd be a very happy version of Robin.
What lights me up? Going on a cruise, 100% all the time. Doesn't matter whether it's river or ocean, going on a cruise. I was at cruising training last week in Florida and I got on the ship and I was like, okay, I need to hide in a closet somewhere and
And
not
stay
get
on.
off the ship. But they counted everybody. So darn it, that didn't happen. So cruising, my family, they're all insane. Every single one of them is insane. Um, I would have to say that I belong to a networking group. We meet every Tuesday morning, and I
In
find
Barrie?
that sorry,
In Barrie?
in Barrie,
And it's Tuesday
and
morning. Who happens to run this networking?
BNI, Business
Oh,
Networking International.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
And the reason I joined them back in 2017 was I thought they were insane, and I still find them insane now. So, it starts my day off great. And then, so that's 3. 4 is the ability to be able to hear from someone that they've had a wonderful time and it was memorable and I would have to say, even though I said family, I should have said number 1 is my husband because he's my travel buddy. He's also my Pied Piper as well. And he's a wonderful Scotsman and he has opened my eyes to the world. We have traveled, I think, almost the only place we have left to go, 2 places is Asia and Norway, and we're going to Norway in October this year.
So that once you get to Asia, so you've been nowhere in Asia. So that's the last remaining continent outside of like Antarctica.
Uh, actually, I did
Now, tell
sort
me you
of.
went to Antarctica.
I haven't been there, but I did do the Drake Passage, Ushuaia, the whole, I did around Cape Horn. I've done that. Um, we'll probably get to expedition cruising, but I just have to figure out how we're going to do that and where we're going to do that. Because at this particular point right now, I have so many groups and people that are going to be traveling in the next 12 months. I'm literally trying to struggle to figure out how I'm going to do the October thing. So, but I'm going. I'm going.
October
So,
is Norway.
Norway.
Yeah. Oh, that's going to be.
As
I
far
think that's
north
where
as you
my
can go.
heritage comes from. The Norwegians. I don't
Oh,
know.
you
Those
should go. I
are,
know a good travel advisor.
yes, I bet you do. That's great. I appreciate that, Robin. This question is. I just think it's something that needs to be talked about a lot. There are a number of great voices out there online that speak about these things, and really, what the underlining message of this. Let's talk about hard things you've been through. We've all been through them. The underlining message of this is entrepreneurship is difficult. Being a human is difficult, but I think we all want to win at life in some regard. How one person defines that and the next person defines that could be very different. But I think when our time comes to an end, we all would like to say, I have no regrets. I lived fully. I asked the question. I asked for the sale. I asked the girl. I asked the guy. I did the things that I wanted to do. I didn't let fear stop me, and I grew and evolved. I'm proud of myself. I imagine most people wouldn't reject saying those things about themselves in the end. So, how do we get there? How do we get to that stage of being proud of ourselves and living a fulfilling life? I strongly believe that it requires us to embrace hard things, whether they're forced upon us, like COVID, or we voluntarily move into them, like going to the next round of training or having that hard conversation with a partner, whether it's in business or intimate or a family member, things that we fear because they're uncomfortable in some way. And COVID was a perfect example. There are a number of people in my life that when COVID was pushed onto them, came out of that situation better. They got their health in line. They started reading more. They took courses. They were forced to move away from work, but they found new ways. Some of them opened businesses, solved problems that weren't there before, and they leveled up during COVID. They embraced that hardship and they got better. And then there are a number of people that COVID really beat them down. And I think it, for the most part, comes down to a mindset. So anybody that's in entrepreneurship knows it's difficult. Getting a call at 4:30 a.m. in the morning. I can't imagine too many employees being paid 20, 25 bucks an hour if their boss said, hey, we need you to be on call all night. Put your phone beside your bed. 9 out of 10 of them would probably say no. But when you own your own thing, when you're building your own baby, essentially, your own vision, you're willing to do extra things. So we like to ask this question of hardships, trials, tribulations, whether personal, business, one of each. Can you share any moments with us that probably sucked in the moment? Hardships don't feel great. COVID didn't feel great for most of us. Having that hard conversation with a loved one doesn't typically feel great. I know for me, it could take me 2 weeks before I've ground up enough courage to have the conversation. But we get better from it. So are there any moments that probably sucked for you, but as you moved through it, eventually learned that this was an ingredient of my life that has now made me who I am. And therefore I don't regret it. I've become better from doing this thing. I've learned, I've evolved. Anything come to mind?
Yeah, actually there's a couple of them. So family related, I'll start there first because our mother was always a very strong woman, like
What's your
really, really
background,
strong.
Robin?
My background?
Yeah.
Uh, so what do you mean by that? Like family wise or?
Yeah, like what's your heritage?
So my mom was from Newfoundland.
Okay.
My father's family was from England. And they met in Toronto. And my mom worked for ages at the Royal Bank of Canada. She was working back in the day when Women were never allowed to be, you know, a manager of a bank or the accountant at the bank and everything. She was teaching the men that were coming in how to do the accounting job. That was what our mom was doing, right? So we were raised. I have a sister, an older sister and a younger brother, and we were raised to be independent people. That's just the way it is. So the hardest thing that happened for me was my mom became ill with cancer, and I was living in Burlington, and she and my dad were living in Burlington too, and I had to tell her that she was terminally ill. So that
Oh,
was
goodness.
that's sort of she died just after her 60th birthday, and
You
her and I
found
were
out
both born.
first?
Sorry?
You found out first? You had to tell her?
I did. Yeah, I was at every appointment with her for everything. My mom had the first Whipple procedure that was done in Canada where they take out all the bad cancerous parts and rebuild your stomach. And she did really well for 6 months. And I was born on her birthday. And she died in July of 94, and our birthday was in May. So that, I think, solidified my ability to deal with trauma, and that's what I'll call it, because I had to be really strong for her. And then my sister was out of the country, and her husband passed away, and suddenly, and I had to call her. She was on a medical mission, and I had to call her and tell her that he had passed away. So, you know, it just sits on my shoulders and stuff. And then our dad, who passed away in July of last year, lived with my husband and I for 15 years, and we saw that decline too. But as sad as that may seem to people, the thing with that is taught me more than anything else that you live with your family, for your family, regardless of what happens. That's it. And somebody has to have the shoulders to take that and run with it. And that's me, and I accept it gladly, and I'm okay with it. You know, it is what it is. I know my personality, and I think it's made me a stronger person. 100%. 100%. I think that has made me a stronger person. So that's personally. Job wise, or I'll go to job wise. So job wise, I used to be in the food and beverage. So I ran bars and stuff like that. So when you're talking about, you know, things that can be crazy until you're faced with somebody who breaks a beer bottle and comes at you with it, you know, you learn that, okay, there's a time to step back and a time to step aside, but there's a time to be strong too. And I gave my heart and soul to a particular restaurant chain. And someone walked into the restaurant one day and said, "Oh, did you know you're being fired?" And I went, "What?" And they said, "Yeah, I'm getting your job, so you're being fired." And I knew nothing
Jeez.
about it, you know. So in the entrepreneurial spirit, that I think that's what I started the invitation business back in 2002, I think it was. And that was me going, I'm never going to be dependent again on what somebody else decides I can or cannot do. So I started my business, and I've always done something entrepreneurial. I made maternity clothes for somebody years ago. I had a woman that did designer knitwear, and I did all the linings for all the outfits and stuff that she did. I taught classes, you know, in Excel and Word and stuff like that, just to have those extra things out there, because I was a single mom for a long time as well. And um, I think that's entrepreneurs are not made. They are born. I don't care. You and I could discuss this for the nth degree, but I'm telling you, everybody's got an entrepreneurial spirit, and whether or not it comes forward because of something they like, they've seen, they've created, that's what spurs everybody on. And I have an entrepreneurial spirit, but I know me now, and I know that my entrepreneurial spirit is me working for me.
I like it. So you say you think every entrepreneur, so you said entrepreneurs aren't made, they're born. Do you think all of us have an entrepreneurial spirit in us to some degree?
I do. If you face that fear that you talked about.
Yeah.
Don't sit there
Uh,
and go, I don't think I can do this. That's the wrong way. You should go, I know I can do this. You know,
how can I do this?
I meet young guys today. In my networking group, we have these three young guys, and they're just, I find them joyful just to listen to the spirit of, they're doing this and they're doing that and they're creating this, and I'm like, this is great to hear this. It really is. One of my grandchildren is an extraordinary artist, and believe it or not, one of the conversations we had when we were away is I suggested, why don't you take some of your drawings and go and buy some cheap t-shirts, get your mom to buy you this printer, get this, heat machine, and start selling your t-shirts. And they looked at me and went, Nan, that's a great idea. I'm like, well, you've got it in you because you can do the art,
mhm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. It's a little bit of curiosity, ingenuity, and not willing to take no for an answer.
Be
I'm
brave.
very curious. First off, thank you for sharing that story. You did it with not even flinching on your face. I imagine you've told that story before, but that's a sign of strength to me. Do you think death can be a teacher for us? Most of us in the West find it morbid, don't want to talk about it, typically avoid it. If you go to the East, Eastern philosophy, it's the cornerstone. It's like the centerpiece of a lot of their philosophy. It's what they meditate on, mortality and the fragility of life. And that's why a lot of this is here. Those teachers are in my life. The West teachers are in my life, and I try to pull what's valuable for me. But you had three major moments of death in that story you shared. Um, I can't imagine the impact. My parents are still around. Thankfully, I've had death in my life, certainly, but I have my take on it. I like to hear other people's take. Do you think we should look at death as a teacher, or do you think it's something we should avoid?
No, I have a real problem, and this is just my personal thought on it, that children should not have death hidden from them. I think it makes it harder for them to deal with it. When my mom was very ill, all my daughters were both constantly at the hospital seeing her, and they saw the regression as to what happened, right? I think that everybody has to face the fact that you only go around once. There's no do-overs here. At this point, whatever they're doing in the science world, I don't want to know at this point because I'm not sure I would. There are moments of my life I would like to relive, but overall, I've been quite happy with what's happened. But I honestly believe that death is a natural progression, and it's not something that should be hidden. It's something that should, be celebrated, if regardless of whether you're religious or not. I have to tell you, when our mom passed away, so she was in a coma for 2 weeks before she passed away. We're talking 94, July 22nd, 1994 is the day she passed away. And my sister and I were both in that room with her for 2 weeks. And on that day, we just noticed something was different. And we both leaned over and said, it's okay, Mom, you can go. We'll look after Dad. It's not an issue. And she died within 20 minutes. Go to July 21st, 2024, and Dad is, failing. And we were all thinking, he's hanging on. He's hanging on till July 22nd, 2024, which would be 30 years to the day that our mother passed away. And it was funny because all three of us thought the exact same thing. And then I left to come home and have dinner and to go back again. And I leaned over at him before I left and I said, it's okay. Mom's waiting for you to start the dance. So if you need to go and be part of the, whatever, then go on your way. It's all good. We're all happy. And then I came home, and 40 minutes later, we were on our way back, and my sister phoned and said, Dad's passed. So here's the freaky part of this whole thing. So we went back to the nursing home that he was in and stuff like that. And we waited for them to do what they had to do there and take him away. And then we left and we came home. And my brother and sister-in-law were staying here with us. And we walked in the house, and there was jazz music playing in this house. And I said, what is that? And I went upstairs and I went in, and Alexa was playing jazz music. And I said to my husband, "Did you leave that on before we left?" And he said, "No." And then my brother and sister-in-law came in and I said, "Did you guys ask Alexa to play jazz music?" And they said, "No." My mom and dad danced to jazz music forever. So
The world
yes,
works in mysterious ways, doesn't it?
100% I believe that whatever's going on in a family, life, death, everybody needs to be aware of it so they can appreciate it.
It's a beautiful story. I appreciate you sharing that, Robin. I imagine many people have been through similar things, and death has certainly been one of my, if not the greatest teacher for me. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of people would resonate with that. Moving into a couple more things, if we could pivot back to business a little bit, I'm going to paint the picture for you here. You're on stage, right? They hand you the microphone. They say, "Robin, it's your turn." You're going up there. There's whatever, 500,000, 1,500 people that are your audience. They could be ex-customers. Probably don't have too many of those. They could be current customers. They could be people who have never heard of you before, but travel is in their future. And they give you the mic. They set a timer for 60 seconds. What do you want to say to this audience? What do you want these buyers, potential buyers, people that want to travel, that could use you and your services? What do you want to tell them?
I would say 100% it's time to get out there and start creating memories. You need to celebrate your family, you need to celebrate your partner, you need to discover the world, you need to have a fun time doing it. You need to be serious at times, but you need to laugh and experience joy. And forget the money part of it. Like everything that you need to do can be done within a budget. You just have to be honest and upfront about it. And I would 100% say to anyone that was sort of iffy about it, let me set you up with this customer of mine that did this, and you have a chat with them and figure out what you want to do. Or let me get you to talk to this person over here who has done this, and ask them about their memories and ask them what was important to them when they did that trip. Don't wait until tomorrow. Do it today. And don't be afraid of getting on a plane, and don't be afraid of getting on a cruise ship. We have something that'll make you feel good on a cruise ship. We have something that'll get rid of, the anxiety of being on a plane and everything. Let me educate you to understand where you need to go, why you need to go, and how you need to go. That would be it in a nutshell.
Well said. I think you'd get a standing ovation for that. Very well said. The something that has become crucial for me, I lived kind of a wild life in my teenage years and my 20 years where I was exploring, sticking my finger in all the sockets to see if they would hurt. I had to learn that way. You couldn't tell me, "Don't stick your finger in there. It's going to shock you." I had to find out for myself.
Reverse
And
psychology never worked with you, obviously. Yeah.
no. And then I started to figure things out. As I got closer to 30, I had some great mentors in my life. Like, I just credit teachers so much by, they're further in life. They're further on that metaphorical journey than I am. And they're willing to share their tips and tricks and potholes to avoid, essentially. And one of the women, she was really the first, and she's probably been the most impactful. She's still around in my life. She's probably 73 now, and me being 38. We started hanging out together at 28, 29. And she really got me to recognize impact. What is my impact? She says, she calls it footprint, sometimes interchangeably, your footprint, your impact. Essentially, I was born, I will die. The middle will equate to my impact on this planet, probably on thousands, maybe tens of thousands of people, potentially millions of people, depending on how you believe into our interconnectedness. But she asked me, "Have you ever thought about that?" I was living in a pretty superficial, selfish place. I said, "No." It's like girls, cars, sports, money, typical guy stuff, athletes type stuff. And she said, "Well, every decision you make, inaction or action, will have a ripple effect. And the vast majority of it you won't be able to see, but it will be out there. Every time you smile in front of a person, it'll change their energy, which will lead to the next person and the next and the next." And she started to ask me, like, what do you want your impact to be? Essentially, who do you want to be? Because that will determine your impact. And it is the thing that I'm more curious now than ever, and have the privilege to get people on a podcast, ask them super personal questions, and have them be willing to answer it. It's fantastic. So it's something that I think about quite a bit, and it's the thing I'm most interested in. So I'd like to ask you, Robin, what would you like your impact to be?
I would like to be known that I was able to do what people needed me to do, not just wanted, but needed me to do. And I would like my impact to be that if someone says, I'm thinking of traveling here, the first thing that people that I know will say, I know a travel advisor. Let me recommend you. That's business wise. Personally, I am extraordinarily, family based, and I am extraordinarily proud of the fact that every single one of my grandchildren has respect for people. And in my house, when they were all growing up, and again, the youngest is 14 and the oldest is 29, when they were growing up in my house, the word hate was not allowed in any way, shape, or form. And I'm very proud of the fact that all of them are good people.
It's a great thing respect, dignity, trust. These are the things that you're talking about. And I like to say character leaves clues. Your energy, yourself, whatever you do, it's out there and people can recognize it if they appreciate those things. And those are certainly character traits that I admire. Robin, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. The business you do, people understand travel, but you went more into depth into it. But now we have a better understanding of who you are and your life and what you value, and the focus on family and respect for one another. So big, the teachings on death. Some people will hear that and probably flinch. Other people, it's going to help them in a huge way, because I just don't think it's a topic talked about enough. So I appreciate you taking us there, because these sensitive topics, I think we can learn more from these topics we're trying to avoid than not, but we avoid them because they're uncomfortable. So it means a great deal to me that you're willing to share that with us. Anything else you'd like to say before we wrap? Oh, last thing. How do we find out about you? How do we connect with you? Website, phone number, email, social media?
So the website is rpmroamings.com. And I tell you, the guys in my networking group, that RPM, those initials have been my initials my entire life, through maiden, marriage, everything. They've always been the same. And the guys in my networking group had an absolute blast with that I won't tell you the comments they made, but, revolutions per minute, type thing and all that. It just went insane. So it's rpmroamings.com. I have a phone number, 705-727-0020. If someone wants to email me, it's robin@rpmroamings.com. And I would be happy if anybody has any questions or anything like that to, work with them on it. 100%.
Beautiful. Robin, it was a pleasure talking to you today. I look forward to speaking to you again.
Thanks, Jeff. That's been great.
You have a nice afternoon.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpwithjeffandsean.com. That's gnpwithjeffandsean.com, or call 705-413-3775.